Too nice, doesn't belong here. Hey, at least it's kind of messed up already. Hi, I'm Jamie. This is Dead Dodge Garage, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Jamie, that is not a classic Chrysler product. That is not a dead Dodge. Hell, it's not even a Dodge. And you're right. This is a 2019 Ram 1500 covered in dead bugs. Warning! Warning! I'm going to talk, like for a while, about modern trucks. And if you don't want to listen to me talk, or you don't care about modern trucks, do not watch this video. Save your complaints. Just go away now. I love classic Mopars. I think I've made that quite apparent by now. There may well be more of them in this driveway than in like the rest of the county. And I'm kind of proud of that. There was a time in the not so distant past when an A-body from the 70s, most likely with a slant 6 under the hood, would have been my only mode of daily transportation. And it's not like the 70s thing was a hard and fast rule. When my wife moved back from California and into my house at the end of 2014, this was my only functioning car. It looked quite a bit different at that time. It was crappy flat black, and it had a side dump exhaust and an overdrive 4-speed, and it was a riot. Reliable, maybe not so much. When Mrs. Jamie got a job, she drove either a 72 Satellite sedan or a Power Wagon, not wholly unlike this one. Oh, and then there was this thing, the Wagon Valdez, which leaked power steering fluid at an alarming rate. She drove this thing until she was so pregnant she couldn't reach the pedals anymore. It was around that time we realized we'd need some sort of reliable daily transportation, because every now and again it is nice to get where you're going without any sort of classic car drama. And of course, this was a time long before YouTube, so it's not like I was holding a camera and filming these exploits. And believe me, there were many exploits. So Mrs. Jamie got a 300,000 mile Prius, the pinnacle of reliability, and I got an almost free 2002 Cummins. The Prius proved too boring for words, so then she ended up with this 200,000-ish mile ZJ Grand Cherokee with a V8 that had slightly been on fire. This was also free. Ever so slowly, we updated our daily drivers, to the point that now we have super fancy, modern 6-year-old Chrysler products. So luxurious, so Hemi, so exhaust leaky. We'll get to that in a bit. Previous to this truck, I had like my 5th Cummins truck, a 2003 Cummins, a 3rd gen. It was the same color, the same 4-wheel drive, and it had almost 300,000 miles on it, just like every other Cummins truck. That truck, though 22 years old at this point, was the same fancy Laramie model, or whatever the heck they called it in that time, but it was of course a heavy-duty diesel truck, and it rode like crap. I also had a modern Challenger with a V6 under the hood. I really liked that car, but it was, well, impractical is a good word. If I still had it, it would be here, but I don't. It was comfortable enough, and it was super fun to drive. Also, very pretty. What I should have done when I bought that thing was take my child to the car lot with me and tried to throw her in the back seat, because I would have found out right away that is not a very fun thing to do. Particularly if you've got small people in small people seats, you do not want a Challenger to drive around in. So I started shopping for a practical replacement. My idea of a practical replacement, of course, one of these. It didn't necessarily have to have a Hellcat. As a matter of fact, I kind of wanted one of them 392 SRT things, but what I really wanted, comfortable seats, a nice plush interior, and back doors. It turns out buying a nice Charger from a dealership is kind of challenging right now because they actually have some kind of no-fix recall. At least that's what the local Dodge dealer tells me. They had to send all of the Chargers they had to auction. I actually considered and even test drove one of these things, but nah, that ain't it, Chief. So anyway, I went car shopping for like months. I annoyed the crap out of all of the car salesman friends I have in my Rolodex. Then one day, my friend Dustin, a salesman at Harbor Chrysler, also 5-star Ford, yes, both of those things are under the same roof, don't ask me why, showed me a 2025 Ram 1500 Limited. I took that thing for a test drive and was instantly in love. The Limited, of course, is the tippy top of the line Ram model. It is insane the number of gadgets and gizmos they fit into those things. In general, the interior is basically the same as what you see here, but that one had the giant stereo, of course. It had a secondary screen over there on the passenger side with its own Bluetooth connection, such that your spouse could put on some headphones and you'd never have to talk to each other again. And it had seats just like these, except they were massaging. It also had partial self-driving capability, radar-guided cruise control, automatic braking, and all kinds of other crazy things. I had no intention of buying that truck. I have no intentions of ever buying something brand new. But I fell in love with that interior, with the ridiculously spacious full crew cab. I knew right then that's what I wanted. So I started shopping, and I must have looked at every Ram 1500 in the Pacific Northwest listed online. The Ram 1500 was revised heavily for the model year 2019. This body was known internally as the DT, while the older body style, which was actually made alongside it for several years, was the DS. The DS body style dated all the way back to 2009. They're distinct from these in that they still have those swoopy lines carried over from the second-gen Ram. I've always seen a healthy bit of Ford F-150 and a little bit of Toyota Tundra in this design. It's a little simpler than the earlier style, smoother. I knew I wanted this body style and this interior. So I was looking for a 2019 or newer Ram 1500, and it had to be a Laramie Sport, or maybe a Limited. I don't know about your neck of the woods, but around here, a truck like this, depending on mileage, is going to sell at a dealership for between $35,000 and $45,000. Before I bought this thing, I very nearly signed for a 2022 Laramie Sport. The Sport package has color-matched grille and bumpers. It's not really my look, but anyway, it was lifted and it drove like garbage, and it had a leaking axle seal back here and some obnoxious noises, and it just generally wasn't in very good shape. But it cost $42,000, so that's the good news. When you're buying from a dealership, package and mileage are pretty much the only things they care about when they're setting the price. They don't really pay attention to how well a given truck was maintained, for example. I, for one, am not bothered by a bit higher mileage. I'd much rather have a vehicle that someone clearly cared for. This one is that. Never you mind the fact that it's getting run into the ground now. I ended up paying $35,000 for this truck, which is a lot of money, but compared to the Limited I test drove, which had an MSRP sticker of like 95, it seemed like a really good deal. Unfortunately, I think I've been ruined forever by modern amenities. So this is just what my life's going to be like now. Exhaust leak! This is ridiculous. But wait, there's more. That's right. Panoramic sunroof. Just what I always wanted. Pay no attention to the water staining around the back of that thing. Welcome to the Northwest. Enjoy your stay. Cool. There are too many buttons. Is there a slow setting? Anyway. Put that right at the top of the list of ridiculous things pickup trucks don't need. Probably don't really need this either. But there it is. Yes, the simple act of driving a Ram Limited ruined me forever, because I knew moving forward my truck would always have to have this button. That button activates the ventilated seat. This one, the heated seat. This turns on the heated steering wheel, and the list goes on. Obviously, it's got a backup camera. This truck does not have the crazy 360-degree panoramic camera system. Why would you ever need that? This button allows you to do awesome burnouts. This one turns on tow mode, which changes the shift pattern and gives you extra engine braking. That works really well. The Laramie truck is equipped with parking sensors in the rear and in the front, which you can thankfully turn off. Sometimes they get annoying. It is a four-wheel drive truck, and I assure you these buttons do something. Not that I ever use them. I'm sure that'll be useful for the 2 days it usually snows every winter here. Power adjustable pedals, for if my tiny wife ever wants to drive it. The steering column does all kinds of things, and I'm instantly going to regret moving it because it was perfect. Seat memory. It's got built-in navigation because, of course, it does. Oh, notice the screen in the stereo is like ruined. That was a common thing. Hoping I can replace that at some point. Non-limited trucks have dual glove boxes. It's daytime, so I can't show you one of my favorite features of this truck. It's dumb. I know. It's a pickup truck. It's meant to do pickup truck things. This thing has interior lighting all throughout everywhere. Up here in the dash, in all of the doors in multiple places. There are little convenience lights up in the roof. There's a light in every storage cubby. There's a light behind every door handle. Because this truck has a giant dumb sunroof, it doesn't have a normal dome light, but it does have lights for your rear passengers. It's got a magical key that isn't actually a key, and it's got a stupid button for starting the engine. This truck has the optional tow package stuff. One of the features included there, built-in electronic trailer brakes. My 2014 had this feature. It is actually amazing. It's fully seamless. Oh yeah, for some reason this thing still has a CD player. The Alpine stereo system, though not the top-of-the-line Bose or whatever, is pretty great. It has automatic high beams because obviously I'm not smart enough to turn those off by myself. It has fancy puddle lights. It has rain-sensing wipers, although they don't wipe often enough for my liking, so I leave those turned off. It has 8 million USB ports. It's got ports here, it's got ports in the back, it's got more port in here for some reason. This truck has a built-in power inverter. It only works when the truck is running, and it's only good enough to like charge laptops and things like that. I learned recently that you can't run, say, an electric tea kettle to make cowboy coffee on the side of the road. That's disappointing. The cubbies have cubbies. It's got more cup holders for the front passengers at least than you could ever use in one lifetime. Did I mention the cubbies? Rum runner compartments. Another cool carryover feature from the DS trucks. This thing also has tie-down points for storing stuff in the back seat, though of course you can't reach them through the fancy WeatherTech mat thing. A feature I thought I would miss from earlier trucks is a storage cubby under the back seat. Also, a flat folding load shelf. However, you don't really need that in this truck because the floor, somehow, miraculously, is fully flat all the way across. This is so great for loading crap. And people. The amount of space in the back of these trucks is truly ridiculous. You've got just as much space as a minivan, but you don't have to own a minivan, which is really nice. We did a fun test the night I bought this thing. I put my brother in the back here. He's like 6.5 feet tall or something ridiculous like that. I pushed the driver's seat all the way back and then did this, reclining the rear seat, and his knees were still like 6 inches from the front seat. Rear seat passengers are also spoiled with their own center console. It's got storage. It's got more cup holders. Rear seat AC, yes. Vents here, vents there. You've got more storage cubbies. You've got more cup holders. You've got crap holders. You've got your own USB ports. These ones talk to the stereo. These are just for charging. There's another inverter port. One thing my truck is lacking, rear heated and ventilated seats. Those buttons would be here. Because it doesn't have that, it's pretty much scrap. Cubbies. Now to get most of this fancy crap, you have to go to a higher trim line truck, like a Laramie. Your basic ST isn't going to have like any of this stuff. There's actually even more too, because the Laramie package comes with the fancy Ram LED headlights, fog lights, cornering lights, automatic high beams, blinkers, and LED taillights, which I think is great, right up until you need to replace one of those things. Seriously though, these headlights are a game changer. I have never been able to actually see at night, and now I can. At least when all of the dead bugs are scrubbed off anyway. I would feel bad for people coming the other direction, but let's be real. They've all got stupid LED headlights too. Welcome to the future. Enjoy your stay. Look at how wide that door opens. Absolutely incredible. I love this truck. I love being in it. I love driving it. It goes straight down the road. It does most of the things a car should do except stop correctly, which is this whole other thing. I did not realize when I bought it that it's slightly lifted, but I won't be unlifting it. It looks too good. I stepped down to a 1500 for something a little more comfortable to drive, thinking, I don't need this for towing. I've got the ramp truck. I then proceeded to immediately put a car trailer behind it, and then a few weeks ago, I towed to Missouri with the damn thing. It's got airbags, so that's good, I guess. I suppose it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. You see, I've gone on record as saying 3rd gen Hemi engines are a mistake, and I pretty much stand by that. Yet, I just spent a bunch of money to buy one of my own. Why? I wanted this exact truck. I wanted this body series. I wanted this package. Oh yeah, don't buy a limited. Massaging seats and a bigger stereo are cool or whatever, but those things have 4-wheel air suspension. You don't want that because it's dumb and it breaks and it's expensive to fix. Under the hood of your slightly upmarket Laramie truck, the engine options do not include the Pentastar V6. That, of course, is the basic power plant included in low-line trucks. It makes something like 300 horsepower, and it gets darn good fuel economy. My 2014 Ram 1500 had one, and if I could have bought this truck with a Pentastar, I would have. No, if you're buying an upmarket truck, you start out with a slightly upmarket engine from that Pentastar, and that would be the basic 5.7 liter Hemi. That's what we've got here. I didn't know this when I bought the truck, but by 2019, the basic 5.7 was making 395 horsepower. That is insane. What's almost more insane is if you drive your truck like a sane person, you can get something like 20 miles a gallon. Of course, I don't drive my truck like a sane person, and this thing's also lifted on big stupid tires, but still, 16 miles a gallon when you drive like a pissed off teenager, that ain't bad. I averaged 12 to 13 miles a gallon over 5,500 miles towing this car on an open car trailer with that Hemi truck. But I was flying. I was doing 70 to 75 almost the entire way, over mountains, passing semis, passing everybody. If I slowed down, that mileage would creep up to like 15, but I wasn't willing to do that. It may surprise you to learn that early on in the history of this channel, I did multiple 5.7 videos. The recurring theme in those, of course, don't buy one of these because they're absolute garbage. Most of the Hemi issues I've dealt with involved valve seats falling out of the earlier style heads. The Eagle style heads, which I believe came in 2009, something like that, seem to have solved that issue. But of course, there are other problems. The cylinder heads may not fall apart for fun anymore, but these later 5.7s are equipped with MDS, or multiple displacement system. During light load cruising, this engine will deactivate 4 out of the 8 cylinders to conserve fuel, and it works pretty well for that. Unfortunately, that comes with a hiccup. Lifter failures are a well-documented issue on these MDS engines. Interestingly, the failure doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the deactivation portion of that lifter. It's more to do with a lack of lubrication around them. Also, for whatever reason, Chrysler redesigned the roller bearings in the lifters for these later engines, and they're more prone to failure. Back when I was still doing this stuff professionally, I distinctly recall trying to order replacement MDS lifters for a Ram 1500 Limited truck that had experienced a failure, and finding that they were on national back order. So were Hemi long blocks. Yeah, this was a big problem for a while, and as far as I know, it still is. So why would I spend all that money to buy a truck with that engine, which I know has problems? Simple. It's the devil you know. To my knowledge, there are exactly 4 engines that could be had in this body style truck. Again, ignoring the Pentastar, which could be found in the cheapo ones. The basic Hemi 5.7, the Hemi E-Torque 5.7, the Eco Diesel, and the Hurricane starting in 2025. I suppose I'll start with the Hemi E-Torque as it's the easiest to relate to the basic 5.7. That is, of course, because it's the same basic engine. That means it has all of the same Hemi problems. The MDS lifter issue I just described, and the obnoxious exhaust leak thing. This also has the added complexity, though, of being what's known as a mild hybrid. Basically, they glued a heavier duty alternator/electric motor onto the front of this thing, and it has an inverter and a 48-volt battery. It can be used for stopping and starting of the engine, but this thing can also use battery power to help get the vehicle moving. This actually gives you some extra torque and extra fuel economy, but not very much. In general, these systems have proven to be fairly reliable. You do have a battery pack, which has a finite lifespan, and there have been some small issues, with them randomly stalling for no reason, for example. Overall, I don't think it's worth the extra trouble. You're carrying around these extra bits that may or may not be reliable and may or may not give you trouble in the time you own your truck. I think I'd rather do without. And then there's the Eco Diesel. As a hardcore Cummins Ram guy, I always wanted to like these engines. The thought of a small, economical diesel under the hood of my Ram 1500, well, that's quite appealing. Now, these numbers are from 2015. I don't know what they looked like in later years. The horsepower rating at that time was 240, which compared to the 5.7 Hemi, not amazing. But the torque rating of 420 pound-feet, well, that helps to tell the story of a diesel engine. And the EPA ratings of 20 miles a gallon city and 28 highway, that is certainly appealing. However, and yes, I'm showing you an AI result, which I hate, the Eco Diesel has a long and storied history of being an unreliable piece of garbage. Yes, there are Eco Diesel owners out there who have loved their trucks, who have successfully hauled with their trucks, who have gotten hundreds of thousands of miles out of their trucks. But there are other owners who have experienced wobbly cranks breaking in half, engines seizing for no reason. These issues were primarily in the earlier trucks, but even the later ones have problems with reliability, with electronics, with injection systems, and notably with emissions. If you're shopping for one of these trucks in the higher trim levels and you find one with low miles and good shape, but the price looks just a little too good, it's probably because it says Eco Diesel right here. I did a truly insane amount of research before buying my truck, and I was thinking an Eco Diesel might just be a good move, but the number of horror stories from people saying, my truck's at the dealer where it's been for 2 months, my truck needs an intake manifold, my truck doesn't run anymore, my truck needed an engine replacement at $120,000. All of that was enough to tell me, you know what? I do not want or need that sort of problem in my life. Oh yeah, we're not even going to talk about this whole thing. And then there's the Hurricane. This, of course, is the all-aluminum inline six-cylinder engine with twin turbos, which Chrysler, Stellantis, whatever the heck they're called, started rolling out in these Wagoneers and Grand Wagoneers for 2024, I believe. They then found their way to the Ram 1500 for 2025. I guess technically this is two different engine options because you could have the standard duty one or you could get the ridiculous RHO, Ram High Output. Having test driven one of these trucks, I can tell you the power does impress, at least unloaded. And the fuel economy, in theory, should be quite good. In practice, according to owners of these trucks, not so much. I read reviews from multiple owners of new Hurricane trucks who said theirs managed about 16 to 18 miles a gallon in normal driving conditions. Or to put that another way, the same as my Hemi. I like inline six engines. I mean, obviously, I'm a Cummins guy. I like turbos and I like horsepower. The standard output Hurricane is rated for 420 horsepower, and the high output, 540. That's a big number. But this is a 3-liter inline six engine. That's smaller than a 225 slant six, by like a lot. And to put out those numbers requires boost, like a lot of boost. I don't know that that's a reliable option for a truck doing truck stuff. I'm excited by the possibility of these engines in cars, but in a pickup that has to haul things? How does the thermal management system in a Hurricane perform hauling 5,000 pounds up a 15-mile grade? I don't know. It might be interesting to find out, but preferably with someone else's truck. I'm not saying these engines are bad. I'm not saying these engines are junk, but I will tell you in my research, I learned that misfire issues are very common with the new 2025 Ram 1500s equipped with Hurricane standard output engines. And to my knowledge, there is still no fix for this. These trucks are throwing misfire codes, but not actually having misfires. I wouldn't want to spend $95,000 on a truck and then have a check engine light in a week. That is not fixable. That doesn't sound like a good time to me. Let's say the inevitable happens with the 5.7 here one of these days, and I need to put lifters in this stupid thing. Okay, done that job before. Yeah, the heads have to come off, but I can do that. Let's say this engine explodes brilliantly into 1,000 tiny pieces, and I have to just replace it with a long block. $6,000 as of press time. Yeah, that's kind of a lot of money, but to put that another way, that's roughly one high-performance 273. I didn't test drive an eco-diesel. I would have, but there weren't any available locally. I did test drive every other option that was available for powertrain in one of these trucks, and I liked all of them. But I think in the long term, this is the one you want. Obviously, I'm a Mopar guy, and I was destined to own one of these Mopar trucks, but I did actually look at Fords. Not seriously, but I looked at them. Honestly, by the 2020s, these interiors and Ram interiors look very similar, but the Fords are a little blockier, chunkier. I don't know, I don't like them. I even sat in one of these things, although I'll have you know the front ends make me want to vomit. And the interiors, well, not my thing either. Yeah, and then there's this whole thing. Oh yeah, and remember those MDS problems with the Hemi? Well, Chevy engines have like the same thing. They call theirs active fuel management or whatever. They have the same problem, but like worse. I could bring up the many low mileage modular Ford engines I've replaced as evidence to not want to buy one of those trucks, but I truly believe the Coyote actually finally solved most of those. Even so, I wouldn't call these things engineering marvels. And if you've got an EcoBoost, well, I'm sorry. If there's one absolutely essential thing you need to understand about buying a modern vehicle, it's this. Anything you can buy will have problems. The question is, how major are those problems? How expensive are those problems? How easy to fix are those problems? Engine failures aren't even the only mechanical thing you might need to worry about in a Ram 1500. These things are notorious for having differential problems. Mainly because these 9 1/4 axles don't love 395 horsepower, and they don't necessarily love the 10,000 plus pound tow rating either. Seriously? My truck is rated to tow 11,610 pounds, and the e-torque is even more? I would not do that. Don't do that. Like, please. It's actually 11,240 pounds because, of course, AI is wrong about everything, but still, that is so much weight to be dragging around with a half-ton truck. It boggles the mind. The other truck I almost bought had half as many miles as this one, but it already had a leaking rear wheel seal, presumably because it had big stupid tires on it, and one of the rear axle/wheel bearings was worn out. These occasionally have suspension bushing issues. I actually have an intermittent popping in the front of this one. It might be a sway link, I don't know, haven't investigated, kinda don't want to. I guess it's finally time to talk about this stupid exhaust leak thing. If you own one of these Hemi-powered trucks, you are probably gonna have to deal with this sooner or later. Funny thing is, though, this is not a Chrysler-specific problem, because the modular Ford and LS or LM or LQ or whatever the heck they are, GM truck engines also have the same exact problem. You see, these truck engines, much like most other modern engine families, utilize an aluminum cylinder head. But the exhaust manifold, well, that's classic cast iron. This becomes a problem at the point of interface between the two because these metals expand at different rates. Aluminum is a great material for making cylinder heads out of. It has excellent detonation resistance, it's lightweight, it dissipates heat effectively, and it's easier to machine than cast iron. It is a combination of these factors that led to modern cylinder heads being made out of aluminum almost as a rule. Meanwhile, the exhaust manifold is made out of cast iron because it handles the high temperature found in the exhaust stream effectively. Exhaust manifold expansion and contraction is nothing new. As a matter of fact, this is a widespread issue on, say, Chevy trucks from the 90s. However, with the introduction of the aluminum cylinder head, it becomes a much worse problem. Because the manifold is expanding much more than the aluminum head is, you tend to see issues particularly at the ends. Did you know that this truck is huge? It also thinks it's smarter than me, which, yes, I kind of hate. Anyway, now we're here. I at least got the front off the ground. I'm going to pull that wheel off and then the plastic fender liner, and then we can get a look at the messed up manifold situation on the driver's side. You know, as a professional mechanic myself, the last thing I ever want to do is work on my own rig or my wife's daily driver. I actually asked my brother if the shop he works at would do this. He just laughed at me. Got the fender liner out. Also, the mud flap is in the way. There's some little push clip things. I broke half of those. The rest of it's secured with 8mm hex bolts, and that's easy enough. We're learning things we didn't want to learn. It turns out that in later years, Chrysler added tie bars to all of the bolts on the exhaust manifolds on these Hemis to keep them from walking around and breaking. And that's nice. Unfortunately, that moves the weak point elsewhere. Instead of the end bolts snapping off, the manifold just cracks. So I guess I need a manifold. If you ever find yourself doing this someday, apparently the heat shield has to go out there. Apparently this is a common enough problem on these later trucks that the dealership normally stocks these manifolds. But they apparently had to install one on a truck in their shop recently, and they don't have one in stock today. I ordered it from O'Reilly. It's like $250. Yeah. But wait, there's more, because I think I found the popping noise. Yeah, both CV axles look like this next to the differential in the front. Here's the passenger side CV, moving around on the little stub shaft in there. I was familiar with that issue on earlier 2000s trucks. I didn't know they kept that issue around for decades, though. Anytime you see rust trails like this, that is a sign that something somewhere is deteriorating. This manifold over here has definitely been hot and is also suspect. I'm going to deal with the obviously destroyed one first. Since I'm under here, I did roll around and look at the U-joints and things of that nature. Haven't found anything else super messed up, so that's the good news. Here's a cluttered look at the ZF 8-speed automatic, or Torque Flight 8 as Chrysler sometimes calls it. This is a fantastic piece of hardware. It's got a cooler on the side. I'm familiar with active air shutters in front of radiators, but this I've never seen. It's an active air dam. Apparently that thing is folded up until like 35 miles an hour when it deploys to help split air at the front of the truck. Supposedly it's good for like a mile a gallon. Bilsteins. One thing this pointlessly fancy truck does not have is tow hooks on the front bumper. I'd kind of like to add those at some point. You might be inclined to think, as I did, that these trucks are pretty much just a restyled version of the previous body style. But you'd be wrong. Just about everything, despite being very similar, is not the same. All of those CV axle and CV axle stub parts that I'm so familiar with on the older trucks, they are different on this body style. Why, I don't know. They look the same, but apparently they're not. These wheels are held on with 6 lug nuts. That's different too. The exhaust manifold I ordered is also specific to this newer body style. You know, I was going to reward this thing for a job well done with a much needed bath. Instead, I'm shoving it outside broken for the night. And we'll hop in Old Faithful to get to band practice. Of course, someone put one of those in the way for some reason, necessitating the 1,000-point turn. It's the next day, and I've got the exhaust manifold out. It's cracked like 3/4 of the way around. Getting the fasteners out wasn't too bad. Getting the manifold itself out of this mess, that is a different story. I unbolted the steering shaft here, easy enough, with one 10mm hex bolt. I loosened the entire ABS pump so I could move these lines. I loosened some wiring that was on here. Oh, I loosened this wiring. I was just barely able to rotate this stupid thing and slide it out here. Here's the shiny Dorman replacement next to the cracked original. You can always tell something is a frequent recurring issue when Dorman makes a part to fix it. It is way beefier, especially here in the rail area, than the original I took out. That's great, you know, for strength or whatever, but this thing barely fit out of there. How am I going to fit this back in? After all the struggle to get the old one out, well, I'm not saying putting it back in was easy, but it was easier. I did have to juggle having the gasket in there already. I don't think you can get it in after the fact. If I pull the dipstick tube totally, that would definitely help, no question. But the bolt that secures it to the block is behind the engine mount plate, which is the stupidest thing in the world. I got this thing held down with most of the bolts, then I remembered the rails. So I went to put the rails back on. The new bolts are too short for those. Now I'm thinking Dorman didn't intend for them to be used here. I mean, obviously they beefed this area significantly. I guess you just leave them off. The number of distractions today has been absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, it's hours later. The manifold is in and torqued. I did have to reuse the factory shield. The Chrysler kit comes with a new one, but the Dorman one does not. If you do your job right as a mechanic, no one will ever know that you did it. I've got my wiring clip back into place. I've got this screwed down. I did reattach the steering shaft tightly. Thought that might be nice. The ABS pump is bolted in place. So if all of this is good, I can reinstall the liner, and it's like I was never here. I did unhook the battery. I tried not to at first. I tried just being careful, but I wasn't born knowing how to be that. So I did short something out on the starter, and I unhooked this for safety. Come on, no leaks. Why did I still hear some noise? It's a while later. I let this thing cool down so I could retorque the bolts. I'm just wondering, how many threads out of my cylinder head should be on this right now? Remember how I said these were shorter? Yeah, they're a lot shorter. Can't even properly torque the stupid things. Anyway, I'm going to put some factory bolts back in because they're perfectly fine. And hopefully I can actually tighten these things enough to seal up the obvious leakage. Seriously, Dorman, this is embarrassing. This is not good. Listen, I've done harder jobs, but I don't want you to get the idea that this would be like a fun Saturday afternoon type project. Also, the heat shield section of that Dorman gasket, pretty sharp. Thankfully, the replacement shoulder stud bolts were long enough. Of course, I broke 3 out of 4 originals. Anyway, I got all the other original bolts back in place, and I did get this thing torqued down a little bit better, so hopefully it's less noisy. What? Why? What's wrong with you? Well, I hear various bits of mechanical noise. I don't hear a horrible exhaust leak, but I don't know if it's perfect or not. It's just gonna have to be good enough. I gotta move a mobile house with this thing tomorrow. I swear I still hear something in here, but maybe it's just lifter noise. Back on the ground, all together, wheel is torqued. You'll notice I'm ignoring the CV axle thing for now. That is a future Jamie problem. Does it need a magic door handle that unlocks itself when you touch it? No. Had to turn the parking sensors off so I could park it in this bush. Unhooking the battery, reset my stereo settings. Everything's red now. It's a little thing, but this truck has cornering lights like a 1970 Cadillac or whatever. Yeah, that repair took a lot longer than I expected. I guess the silver lining is now it's dark and I can show you all that interior lighting I was talking about. Isn't that neat? It's even dimmable. Wow. This really is a nice place to be. So nice, one doesn't really mind hanging out in it for, say, 2 weeks and 5,500 miles. I will tell you, sleeping in the back seat gets a little cramped. So weird being able to see. Horsepower? Yeah, it's got some. And for a slightly lifted four-wheel drive truck, it sure handles nice. Oh yeah. Oh, I just remembered the bed is full of trailer garbage and a broken toilet. Maybe I shouldn't corner it however many miles an hour that was. Okay, the cornering lights are just the fog lights. And of course you can just turn them on and leave them on. Well, that's kind of cool. Also creepy. I don't know what else to say, really. It's a truck, and I like it. I like it a lot, in fact. Even if it does have a stupid Hemi that I'm gonna have to keep working on for the next however many years I own this thing. Okay, the LED taillights are kind of cool. It almost looks like neon. It's delightful. Oh yeah, it's not a great idea to let your Hemi idle all day. Apparently that exacerbates the whole lifter dying thing. Something about a lack of oil to the rollers in the lifters. I'm not hearing an exhaust leak at all now. We're good. It's fixed forever. Cruise control set. Vented seat active. Temperature ideal. Fuel economy, well, it's getting better. Don't tow houses with your half-ton Ram. Anyway, yeah, it's really a delight to drive. And you know, if you want to pass that Porsche, 395 horsepower says you can do that at any time. Do I need this much cab or four-wheel drive for my normal commute? No, but the bed is full of slant six cylinder head, a toolbox, and a gas can for some revival projects. Excelsior! Oh, here, let me just kick down 3 gears. Have I mentioned that the ZF 8-speed automatic is truly a wonder of modern automotive science? Well, it is. I really like it. I think this is my 4th 8-speed. Bombing down the 2-lane blacktop at night, fully able to see things, which is not at all normal for me, passing anything, everything, all the time, immediately, with no problem, getting acceptable fuel economy, and driving great, you know, for a lifted four-wheel drive pickup truck. Also, did I mention my butt and my hands are warm? For what I spent on this stupid thing, I'd better really like it. The good news is, I do. Whee! Okay, this is a slightly bumpy road. Again and again, it impresses me. Again and again, it does exactly what I ask it to, and all it asks is an occasional exhaust manifold replacement. I've come to realize that thing was cracked the day I bought it. I always heard a little light ticking on startup. It's just that it got way worse. Now that that's fixed, I don't hear that startup noise at all anymore. I thought that was just normal Hemi tick. I don't know that my opinion of anything matters, especially my opinion of like a modern pickup truck, but I don't know, maybe you're shopping for something like this. I would definitely give this newer generation of Rams a look. It's a week and a half later for some reason. I still haven't washed it, and my finger still hurts. I don't know what, if anything, we learned from this video. Hopefully we learned that Hemis aren't the best, but I don't know, maybe just buy one anyway. Is that good advice? Probably not. Pentastar. Good. At some point in the future, I guess I have to find CV axles and stubs for this thing and then go through the entire front end. You won't see that. Let's be real, no one saw this either. Anyway, as usual, I do thank you for watching. And remember, if you can't ram it, I don't know what you're supposed to do.